Your stomach makes you let out a painful groan. Where do you want to go? Welcome back to Roadwarden, Part 3. I hope you all enjoyed the last episode of Part 2, and I hope you stay for more. My name is Sexy Revolver. I love you all, and I hope you enjoyed my commentary. And I returned to the scavenger camp. Did I sleep last night? The entrance to the scavenger's hideout is open. The scavenger is looking for something inside his tent. He crawls out quickly. Greetings, Roaster. I almost didn't hear ye. His crossbow is loaded, resting next to him, and aimed at the entrance. Why do you want to go to Howlers dell? If you want to go south, we should travel to the Pelt of the North. I mean, I've seen your point, but I've never been yet. Can they afford my iron? Do they have the means to pay for it? I need coins. I need to find a handy bunch that will walk south with me. And I need a new staff and boats. I know the village it's a nice place, and even a smithy of sorts. I had a chance to take a look. It's large, safe, and they have enough well-equipped hunters to guide you south. I bet they'll have a barter service for iron. Well, it's a shorter path, I guess. Fewer spots to get surrounded by corpses. If you're sure it's the best opinion, fine. I'll trust you, a roadster's judgment. Time for me to leave. Travel. I want to look around the northern gate. The paths have almost been reclaimed by grass. To your east and west, you see shadowy alleys behind damaged buildings. I take a closer look at the gate. Pushed or pulled, it doesn't matter. Move an inch, someone has spread dirt and the rocks underneath it, and around it, seemingly to keep the planks stuck in the ground. I approach the nearby tree. You don't find anything worth picking. The half-dead quinces have maggots crawling under their skin. You wonder which part of this meal is more tempting for a dark-winged bird sitting among the branches, the flesh of the fruits, or of the worms. Quinces are rarely eaten without having a chance to belt. You can safely guess that they were meant to have been dried, or to add taste to cookies or hard drinks. Yeah, take a sip of this water. After a few moments, you realize that the bottom part of the tree is just above ground. It's partially charred. Someone must have opposed a torch here. But the wet wood didn't burst into flames. I want to open the gate. You should take a closer look at the other side. It's even possible, especially since it may take a couple hours without proper tools. I go somewhere else. Back to northwest. The colorful grass covers the entire fenced pasture. The large stone placed in the middle suggested could have been a playground for ibixes, or maybe it's just an old garden. You see a couple small sheds, a latrine, and a single building to the south, completely burnt down. All these places were cleaned out by scavengers. Opponent doesn't want to approach the large building in ruins in the north. The terrible stench of feces and rotting food scares you off as well. The paths are covered with goblin footprints. It's daytime, so the pack should be asleep. If there were beasts active, they would try to scare you off or to hunt down your mount. This is their territory, and once they wake up, you will face the furious enemy. I go somewhere else quietly. The closer you are to the village and longer you stay around, the sicker you feel. The taste of gastric juices hits your mouth. Your forehead hurts. You start to stumble. Epona is worried by the sight, pokes your head with its nose. I walk away from the walls. Leaning on your mount, you go outside, keeping your mouth shut. After a few minutes, your eyes get clearer. It may be better to leave, at least to stay far away from the village for the rest of the day. Oh. You don't find a single sign of the livestock that lived here. In the past, any bones, horns, antlers, or dung have been devoured by the wilderness. The pasture at the river on the opposite bank, the meadow turns into a thick forest, impenetrable for a rider. What are the chances that a herd of defenseless animals could get there and survive? The breach in the southern fence wasn't made by some brute force. You find an axe, cuts in spots that were ultimately broken anyway. After all these years, there are no tracks that you could follow. I return to the main road. Where do you want to go? Inspect the fields in the southwest. You're surrounded by what looks like a field plowed in late autumn, disturbed by hundreds of rains and snowfalls. There's a few clumps of grass and wheat, but the place like this one, abandoned years, should have already turned itself into a green leaf. A barrel field, maybe? It was overused. But would you still accept the weeds to sprout a curse? The path leading west from here ends at the edge of the field, shifting into a meadow, then the forest. In the north, you see a pathway leading around the palisade. I don't have any way to investigate. I inspect the palisade to the west. Tracks of human footwear and many more ape footprints covered the path formed around the palisade breach. As far as you can tell, the freshest footprints lead to the village. The wooden stakes spread on the ground are rotten, covered in mushrooms, small flowers, insects, and worms, a good source of many animal or goblin food, though you expect them to also hunt for birds and eggs. The meadow in the west turns into a forest quickly. The grasses in the north surround dozens of tree stumps already covered in moss and fungi. Going south, you'll reach a large field, though you don't see any crops. I shouldn't enter the forest, especially not in this area. It's unpredictable. I expect the clearing on the west. The meadow is lush and colorful and dense, so dense it's unsafe for a rider. For a couple more minutes, you lead Epona with a rope, avoiding the potential disaster in case of hoof falling into an animal den. Being forced to travel around the palisade every time you get here is going to be a pain. Most of the tree trunks look similar and have comparable size. They were most likely planted with the sole purpose of being cut down and used by the locals. Though cutting so many trees at once, that alone could provoke the wrath of herds. Such a process should be spread across a couple of seasons, and you can't be sure that was the case. In the west, And north, you see clearing of trees into a wild forest. In the east, you see a road leading north. I leave the clearing. I go to the road leading north of the village. You're at the closed northern gate. The neglected road is partially overgrown. You hear the river to the east, separated by the lush meadow in the field with crickets and rodents. I go somewhere else. I head to the river. You see a quenching family of boars, some of them brown, black. You consider turning back, but they pay little to no attention to you. After a couple of grunts, they run north. The river is not too wide yet, unusually deep with banks. Altered by the locals decades if not centuries, the water is cold and clean, yet filled with lawn plants growing from the bottom. You would rather avoid jumping inside or drinking from it, but you're tempted to at least wash your face, neck, hands. Dozens of, if not hundreds of small fish are looking for tasty leaves. But you also try to avoid predators, a dance of life, completely unaware of your presence. You suddenly realize there's something else buried among the kelp. A rusty sickle is sticking out of the ground. A couple of stone axes and hoes, wooden handles, and such a large wagon are covered with moss, but you recognize their shapes. Why would someone drop them here? On the opposite bank of the meadow, turns into a thick forest, impenetrable for a river. I turn back. I spent some time setting up a fish trap at the bank. You place the basket on the ground, you grab a bowl and start digging, looking for a few larger worms. You bait the stick and you push it inside the basket, locking it between the sides. Then you cover the entrance with a lid. Tying it together takes a few good moments, but will be easier later on. You attach the entire trap to a bush and push it into the stream. Far enough it sinks entirely. Who knows how long it will take before something large enough swims inside. Still, it would be better not to wait for too long, otherwise the prey may die longer. I step away. I consider washing myself in the river. The living stream, filled with fish and plants, won't help you much. You need at least one piece of bathing equipment to get more out of this place. I step away. I travel to the east. You enter the wetlands. With their many streams, ponds, and fish, large birds run and fly between the gray, sparse trees that are covered with moss, mushrooms, and critters for a human. It may be an unwelcoming and harsh realm, but overwhelming swarms of insects prove that it's a realm full of life. The danger, with teeth and claws, is hidden below the water's surface. I stay away from the banks. This plant should be alive without leaves. It does not resemble the other trees of the wetlands. It's someone else. You get off your horse, prepare your axe. The water is filled with dirt and dead plants, and it smells like an old corpse, of the roots spreading far, breaking through the water's surface. You don't see any serranes in the grasses, or the shore. You approach the table like altar of free limestone slabs, where the rocks were originally as formless as they are now. Or was their point in time centuries ago, when they're preciously shaped and decorated by masters of the artsy. There's no way to tell. Epona is peacefully observing the dark grass and slapping flies with its tail. Whatever it is that you feel in the air, it's clear that your companion sees this place through very different eyes. I smile and scratch the bottom of his neck. Go ahead. I'll take a look around just for a moment. Go ahead. I approach the altar. There's clumped dirt and the uneven nicks infused by years of wind and rains. The bottom of the surface of the table is dusty, but you don't find any spider webs or mold, even though it's in a perfect spot for them. The tree roots cling to the altar, many spots they're firmly attached. You struggle to move them even by an inch. The cream-colored limestone is cold and smooth. I try to make an offering. Was your offer sacrifice? Example food. What do I have? Let's give it food. You place any type of food in your sack or on the nearby plants. None of them seem to make a difference. I walk away. Don't see any creatures nor humans. I look into the water. You step cautiously without knowing how deep it gets. You consider that a sarin could be camouflaged in the mud, waiting for the victim to get near. Since you don't plan to kneel down and drink, you're hoping to dodge a potential strike. Once you got closer, you start breathing again while the water is dirty and it's shallow. It's also shallow. You see vegetation, swimming insects, even small fish. All of them stay away from tree nut roots, which look like a spider web converging from the bottom of the pond. Aside from that, you don't see anything that would catch your attention. I take a closer look at the roots. You kneel down in front of the one that's lying on the shore. It's brown, covered with hair. It resembles that on your arm. When you touch it, it's moist, soft, and warmer than you expect. Do something with it. Chop. You pull out your axe and stop in place. You can't tell what the result of wounding the tree would be. I make the cut. You stand above the root, like you were about to split firewood. You swing accurate, but the nimble root backs down into the water, pulled by the rest of the creature, leaving a trail of red bubbles and mud. A chunk of the root is still in your fingers, so you move it into a jar from your bundles. The axe is now covered with a red sticky goo, smelling like rusty nails and sweet fruit mixed with beer. You reach for the water skin and wash the blade from the plant juices. I walk away. I approach the altar, I make an offering, and I give it the root. You can't do that. Okay, what's it called? A weird root. You put the tree's root on the altar, but nothing happens. I walk away. Travel somewhere else. Up. You slow down among the shrubs. A small pack of dragonlings is festering on the carcass of a grey arroch. One of them is with red feathers on its arm, straightens up, and gives you a curious glance. Its head tilts left and right, forward and back, screeches at you, but doesn't move forward. It returns to its meal. No wonder you wonder what would happen if you were on foot. Would they be satisfied with their prey, or would they run after you? But so far, what reason do you have enough space to move forward yet stay safe? The powerful jaws of the monster break bones loudly, then bite off and swallow chunks of meat. I keep my distance and look over my shoulder. The beaten road serves your palfrey well. The forest to your left becomes sparse and brighter, and there are dozens of human-made paths among the fruit-bearing trees. On your right, there's a large pasture, at least a dozen dozen massive malfoods. 2 of them are already sheared and look commercially well. Soon after that you ride among vast flourishing fields filled with rye, the still green preparing itself partially for the second harvest. The path ends with a massive wooden gate, the stone wall separating from you and the glowing lights behind it. It's as tall as the roofs, but you can't imagine climbing to its top. There are pretty much no cracks, no missing bricks, a sign of many hours of labor, especially considering how massive the settlement is, as wide as the city district. The birds and monkeys are now just a distant echo, replaced with sounds of carts running, hammers, saws, laughter, and shouts. Finally, maybe I can rest here. A young man is leaning against the closed gate covered by its shadow. He's young, tanned, and has a short, elegantly trimmed red beard beneath the red gambeson he wears. Expensive tunic decorated with colorful trim. From his arm hangs a steel helmet, though the metal is so thin that it's mostly made of wool leather. He moves into the light and takes a posture of a disciplined soldier, not a mercenary. He's standing upright with his chin up. There are 2 weapons on the ground, leaning on the wooden beams of the gate. An axe made of steel and a wooden club. He doesn't reach for either. You dismount smoothly, still having some vigor. Epona holds its tail high. A narrow path leads to the north. 2 field workers, one with a hoe, one with a pitchfork. They wave to you. You can't see their faces, but their clothes are simple gray pants and vests made of hemp and wool. I wave back, why not? They talk for a bit, looking forward, pointing at your mouth, then walk away, disappearing behind the wall's corner. The guard smiles, yet avoids his eyes, and has to clear his throat before he speaks. Welcome, traveler. Welcome, traveler. If you're new here to make trouble, Howlers dell welcomes you. We have the whitest flower here there is. When he blows, you realize. When he bows, you realize it's a well-practiced performance. If it's new garments you're looking for, you can order everything you need right here. In all colors, shapes, and sizes. Capes, boots, vests, robes, or if you're self a master of the needle, I can assure you, we have the fabric you're looking for. His act is over. He glances at your mount in a moment of silence. His eyes get wider, and he observes it with a childlike fascination. This is Epona. It helps me patrol the roads. You can pet it. You can pet its side if you want, but no sudden movements. He follows your instructions, even though your palfrey pays no attention to the man's careful touch. The guard grins widely. I'm Leto, the new Roadwarden. I want to see your mare. A shitty folk, eh? The mare is busy, but I'll ask her. Give us a moment to let you in. He knocks on the gate, which is pulled inward by 2 guards. A man and a woman are wearing gambesons, similar green but tailor-made to match their figures. The nearby buildings are simple houses made of wooden beams and covered by the thatch, while the storehouse is even more modest, with a roof made of planks. The watchtower has a ladder made of ropes and sticks, no stairs. Just give me a moment, the guard strides away before he finishes the last word. The others get close the gate behind you, and you observe your mount carefully. Your eyes run east to a humming creek running through the center of the village. I wait for the messenger to return. Coming sound, eh? That's Howlers Creek. The guard, like most of the locals, is taller than you, wide but shallow. There's no need of been a flood in years. Pa told me there used to be bridges. Neighbors crossed it with their boots in their hands. In his clean with a raindrop, but there are many fish. We're the cleanest village in the north. Her companion chuckles brightly. Oh, that's a woman. Whoops. Yeah, I can't do female voices. Just gonna have to deal with a slightly male voice. When the guard returns, he's still alone. She can come now. A friend of mine, Lele. The mayor wants to be there with when the child arrives, but I asked to show you around the village. I nod, fine. He approaches the watchtower. Tie him out here. We'll keep the kids away. Most of the neighbors getting ready to celebrate. Once you're done, he grabs the rope ladder. The view from the top is a gorgeous. I climb up after him. No, do not. It's not a trap. It's not a trap. This is the most funniest option I think I've seen yet. I nod and think of my knife. It's a trap. I'll get him first. I climb up. Even though the ladder swings in all directions, the guard gets to the top quickly, like a monkey climbing up the creepers. You, on the other hand, need to stop and wait for the ladder to claim itself. When you join the man on the wooden platform, you're a bit dizzy. He's leaning on a wooden parscape, observing the area with a great smile. I look around. See? There's an east place like Howlers dell. The god points in every direction, giving you no contemplate for the next few minutes. He describes the fields and the crops, the flocks and the pastures, and the shepherds expecting the fences, the ancient garden of trees and bushes larger than the village itself, the sunlight dancing on the stream to its own tune. If you are to believe everything he describes, this place is access to everything in abundance. The sweetest honey, the most fragile bread, the most fragrant bread, the softest wool air, the beer is excellent. He sounds like a city merchant who's trying to sell old horse. What an annoying kid near Howlers. Can find the 5 days larger. No wonder he's so proud. Why wouldn't he be? They tamed this scrap of land and lived in comfort. The islet in the middle connects both parts of the village. According to the man, the northern gate is hardly opened as it leads nowhere now. Near the eastern gate, there's the 8L Inn, where you can find a bed, victuals in the stall, where alcoholists reward our check unless we annoy them with pointless talk. He lets out a chuckle. On the opposite side, there's another white horse. It belongs to Boyne, the best clover in the north. The priests live in the southeast near the wall. They do not talk to strangers. You also hear about the hunter, the cooper, the fisher, the miller, the pie maker, who lives with his sister, the baker, and the smith, and her husband. The carpenter lives with their kids. Some of the larger buildings could accommodate 2, maybe even 3 generations at once. There are even more than hundreds that dwell here. You consider stopping his speech, but he suddenly points at the islet again. There, see? The man's coming. The one wearing purple. You're free to join her, child. I nod and climb down. You try to climb down quickly, but 2 steps are enough to make. You're sure that it's a bad idea. You wait for the ladder to find its balance. You're relieved when you touch the ground again. You untie your palfrey and follow the guard. You pass a small pasture surrounded by a wooden fence. You lose a few loose chickens and a tattered board. The fancier buildings are covered with whitewashed coating and surrounded with vegetables, herbs, and flowers. The bridges are wide enough to carry a wagon, but for a pona walking on the wooden beams, it is far from pleasant for itself. It is empty, but you notice an empty shell painted with shapes and colorful flowers. I walk over the second bridge. Along the entire path, you notice more and more people observing you and smiling or casually greeting you as they're focused on their own tasks. Finally, you reach the main square. A large tree grows in the center, surrounded by the dark water, held together by a thin wall, perfect for sitting, but the smell coming from the liquid makes you think of rotten eggs. The plant reminds you from the tree you saw in the south next to the swamp altar. In the north, you see the Ale Inn. Judging by the tables, stools, and the benches outside, it's open for guests. The villagers are chatting and dining loudly, and you catch their curious glances on the side of the dining area. And the merchant is arguing with a tall, broad-shouldered worker. An old man is sitting by himself, eating a pie with a stick. Leaning against the table, a young woman is cleaning the empty mugs in the creek. Speaking with a man at least twice her age, maybe her father. I need to find a spot to tether a pony. There is a wide roof next to the gate that shelters carts, crates, and sacks. You move your mount next to the donkey to a beam placed here just for this purpose. Without a moment of hesitation, opponent starts to chew on the nearby haystack. You have some time to make sure it doesn't struggle with your bundles. You return to the inn. I look for the mare and approach her. She's sitting on a chair with a 4-year-old boy on her knees. She's holding his hand gently, showing him how to eat gruel from a bowl. It's not a cheap meal, though. You spot nuts, berries, and milk added honey. It's yellowish. The kid is clean and quiet. Once he notices your arrival, he creams his mouth with a spoonful of oats. Now, love, the mare titters. Do not get distracted, she rubs the meal off his face. A few more spoons and you'll go home to Papa in the kitchen, eh? She gives you a radiant, though apologetic smile, then turns her attention back to her companion. I observe her more closely. Her long, full-sleeved linen dress must have been dyed once in blue, once in the red archive. Its dark fancy purple, which would draw attention in Holden. From her left shoulder hangs a green woolen cape, as thin as a shawl. The brown belt on her waist, a large steel buckled portrays a running deer with unrealistically large antlers growing in all directions and branches, like tree branches. Unlike tribesfolk, she's pale, with powdered and rough cheeks. Her lips match her outfit. Her a bit closer wine red. The thick gray stands in her long blonde hair looks more like a fashion choice than a result of aging. Her eyes are the color of her cape, keen and vigorous. Ugh. Okay. She's shorter than most people around, though still would be the tallest woman in most of the northern settlements. When she's around 40, her slim hand adds fragility to her appearance. fragility to her appearance. Even though her posture is upright, her legs confidently cross, and her delicate voice assertive. She makes plenty of gestures, but her shoulders hardly ever move. I wait for as long as it takes. After a few more minutes, the boy lets out a gentle cough, and after a pat on the back, the mayor puts him on the ground. You did a great job, love, but now I need to speak with our guest, darling. She addresses one of the inn workers. The girl is close to 15. Take him to his father, will you? Her tone suddenly gets firmer, leaving no hint to the question's suggestion. Yes, Ma, she responds. Both her hair and eyes are nothing like those of her brother, and neither of the kids resemble their mother. So, we have a new Roadwarden, eh? Again? Please sit down. She vaguely shows you the palm of her open hand, letting you pick of any place you want. Since I am her guest, I sit to the bench next to her. The flowing water hits silently, the creaks of wooden stakes surrounding the aisle, then splits into two stream beds in its whole. The river surrounded by tall walls protecting the banks from distortion, and the water is seldom free of dirt. Here, the smell is as fresh as it would be in the woods. The mayor observes your outfit carefully, at first looking at if she ate an onion, and put on a polite smile. Once your eyes meet, you hardly look away. I'm sure you're hungry. My husband will bring you something soon. I appreciate it. Do not need it. Hunger makes me peevish. In the day is nice for that. She taps her chest and looks at the flock of birds that fly above you, loudly heading south. As we're waiting, be so good as to understand something. Even if you're but a mercenary, I can imagine a single reason for you to choose this realm for your wandering. Niche so after Alston's disappearance, the name's glory or treasures to find here. Her pale fingers form a tent on her stomach and clasp the 4 fingers, pointing at you. You were sent here by the merchants. They want the peninsula. Friendly. I present Holiva's interest as an opportunity. You introduce yourself, touch on the more obvious sides of the potential deal with the guild, the city chief, the troops, their pay and patrols would establish the overview of taxes. The trade routes would bring new life to this place. You try to sound warm. It's a win-win. Throughout your speech, the mayor observes you patiently without interruptions. I see, she finally responds as she observes you. Your palfrey, she twists her deer buckle left and right, left and right. As if it were that simple, I'd be eager to applaud, but it's never that simple, is it? Her eyes are filled with melancholy. Despite her smile, I appreciate your coming with a carrot, not a stick. But when it comes to the guild, there's always a catch. Her accent is now almost identical to the ones they used in the city. I'm telling you everything I know. I can't ask you to trust me, but I'm not hiding anything. Even if I were eager to put trust in your words of a stranger, I honestly has nothing to do with the truth necessarily. It doesn't put me in an easy position, as I can imagine. Here, listen to the trick I learned during my studies. She practically clears her throat, patting on her chest with one hand and covering her mouth with another. Leans forward and rests her elbows, allowing her hands to freely make gestures. You make a deal with the settlement, flour and wool in exchange for coin and tools. You send the first traders, and they imply that you're ready to pay for more. Let's say parchment months later. You want no more rye, just parchment, the parchment and wool. We can nay busher any more mouthfuls, the locals say, don't worry. You answer, we'll send you a small flock. Just turn one of your fields into a pasture. As she pretends to speak as different characters, her voice commonly shifts, and she has no issue switching between accents. I keep a straight face. She swings her hand above the table. Another year goes, and while there's more parchment in the village lacks crops, the tribe needs not just tools and plenty of coins, we also need seeds, and the guild is not satisfied. Sending our wagons costs a lot, and there are more highwaymen now. If you want to come again, you need more mouthfuls and to sell us their cheese. And guess what? With a halting laugh, she straightens up, spreads her arms like someone of her age. Her age. Turns out the village can't say no more anymore. They lack supplies, seeds, and land. They can't refuse. I nod. She's right. Better not say anything stupid. The pause doesn't linger for long. My neck. I see we understand each other. Let's finish our introductions. I am Talifus, one of the keepers of Ape Ale Inn, and the mayor of Howlers dell. I assume it would be convenient for you to take my answer. Back to Hullivan, she wonders for a moment. Say, when could we experience the first caravan after winter? It depends on what you can sell and what you want in return. While the conversation goes on, food gets served with the refreshing aroma is roasted mutton covered with a thick sauce made of mint parsley. Honey tempts you to bite in right away. The juices are seeking into the round trencher. A plate made of simple brown bread. There is also a small bowl filled with chopped red radishes and a sliced boiled egg, and a mug filled with cold buttermilk. It's all by a few young people, all of them referring to the mayor as their mother. And in the end, the innkeeper himself shows up to wish you a good meal. He's wearing a clean orange tunic and a not so clean apron made of hemp. He politely introduces himself as Eric's, and after confirming you won't get sick from what he prepared, he leaves you and his wife to your conversation. Talius tears the meat tears the meat into smaller pieces, and eats slowly, often expressing her enjoyment of the home. That's a runtime. Alright, I'm going to end the video here. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you in the next part. I'm going to save our game. Whee! Goodbye, everyone.